Hello, this is the Lord's Legion and welcome to a brand new movie review, and as you can see, this is a part of the series known as the Path to Infinity War, where I'm going to be looking back on each and every film within the Marvel Cinematic Universe up until the release of Avengers 4. And yes, I should be thinking of a new title for the series, but the Path to Avengers 4 doesn't really roll off the tongue properly. And also, yes, this review is like almost a month delayed, but like I mentioned in one of my previous videos, the film wasn't even released in the UK till a month later. Hence why I'm doing this review right now. And if you're looking at the thumbnail and title, then you would know that I am going to be reviewing Ant-Man and the Wasp. So without further ado, let's begin with this review. So when it comes down to the plot for Ant-Man and the Wasp, it's pretty much bare bones, because when it really comes down to it all, it's just about saving Janet Van Dyne from the quantum realm. However, there is a mysterious villain known as the Ghost who wants to steal some of the quantum energy for herself. And so it is up to Ant-Man and the Wasp to take down the Ghost and save Janet Van Dyne from the quantum realm. Now, going into Ant-Man and the Wasp, my expectations were relatively low, and that's mainly due to the fact that I wasn't particularly fond of the first Ant-Man movie. I didn't think that it was bad or anything, I just thought that it was a little bland and pretty forgettable. But the real question is Ant-Man and the Wasp relatively better than the first Ant-Man movie? And to answer that question, it is, but only very slightly. And while I found Ant-Man and the Wasp to be a little more enjoyable than the first film, that's not really saying much. And like the first film, this one isn't anything special. Now when it comes down to the cast, I really do have to praise both Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly as both Scott Lang and Hope Van Dyne, because they both bounce off one another very well and they do have a lot of chemistry together. And I do appreciate how this film doesn't dumb down Scott Lang just so that Hope Van Dyne could be more badass than him. And both of these characters do have their time to shine. Although the only complaint I have is the fact that I don't really buy them as a romantic couple. And I don't blame the actors on this one, but it's more of the case of how the film doesn't really focus on that side of the relationship. And plus we also have Michael Douglas coming back as Hank Pym, and he was just as enjoyable as he was in the first film. And he also has some pretty nice moments with both Scott and Hope. And when it comes down to the three main characters, this movie does do all of them justice. Although the same cannot be said for the newcomers. First of all, we have Hannah John Carmen as the main villain for the film, of course being Ghost, who many people deem to be one of, if not the weakest villain in the MCU thus far, and honestly, I wouldn't go that far. Because at least Ghost does have a pretty interesting backstory, and she does have some reasonable motivations. And the problem with Ghost isn't so much the concept of her character, but rather the execution. Because the thing that really holds this villain back is the fact that they don't really explore on this character at all, and instead was just more or less degraded into a supervillain for both Ant-Man and the Wasp to face off against. Which is unfortunate, because if they did focus more on her character, then she could have possibly worked. And we also have Lawrence Fishburne as Bill Foster, and I do like his little rivalry between him and Hank Pym. And much like the Ghost, this character does suffer from the fact that they don't really focus enough on him. And Bill Foster almost comes across as wasted in my eyes. And we even have Michelle Pfeiffer as Janet Van Dyne, and they really don't do anything with her character. Sure, the movie is mostly centered around saving Janet Van Dyne, but when we finally get to see Janet, they really don't do anything interesting with the character, and it's such a shame, especially because it's Michelle Pfeiffer. Oh, and I almost forgot about Luis, and just like in the first film, I absolutely hate him, and I would go as far as to say that he's pretty much the Jar Jar Binks of the MCU. And when it comes down to the action scenes in this film, they're pretty much fine, and the effects admittedly are pretty impressive. Although if you were to expect anything interesting with the shrinking or growing mechanic, or even with Ghost's phasing powers, then you would be pretty disappointed, because all of the best scenes have already been shown in the trailer in terms of action sequences. But again, the biggest complaint I have about Ant-Man and the Wasp is just the fact that it's so bland, and when you really stop and think about it, this film is nothing more but filler. And to me it just feels like a phase 1, phase 2 film. And to me, Ant-Man and the Wasp just feels like a by-the-book superhero film. And when you compare this film to the other films within Phase 3, then this one feels like a major step back. because in the end Ant-Man and the Wasp doesn't add anything new or even interesting. Sure, I had some fun with Ant-Man and the Wasp, but honestly that's not enough. And so for the final verdict for Ant-Man and the Wasp, I'm going to go ahead and be generous by giving it a 6 out of 10, which is the same score I gave the first film. Again, the saving graces were of course the 3 main characters, but aside from that, it's pretty much all by the books to me. So what do you think of Ant-Man and the Wasp? Do you think that's just as funny as the first film, or do you think that this is a major step back from the other films from Phase 3? Comment below and share some thoughts. And as always, thank you guys for watching this video, please like and subscribe, take care and have a good one.